Hi! I have made it on here. Let me fix my camera. Alright, sorry for the delay if anyone was actually looking for me at 10. I'm running fashionably late. So, welcome. I'm welcoming myself. Thank you guys for anyone who's watching. I'm hoping this will be an interactive discussion and not just me talking would be my preference. So please join in, maybe because I was a little late. So feel free to comment, or please comment. Today's topic, and by the way, thank you to Livebox magazine. So if you're not familiar with Livebox, subscribe to their Facebook feed. They have all kinds of amazing content, from beauty to horoscopes to like all things lifestyle related and just really cool stuff. So subscribe to them, and I usually have a monthly or bi-monthly article on there. So today I wanted to talk about using my last post as kind of a platform to have a discussion around to keep or not to keep. And this is coming up, I feel like, more and more for people. Hi Nicole, yay, I'm here. So ignore my email, I figured it out. My last post, and as we enter this digital age where we have clouds and files and all kinds of things in the ethers, it's bringing up new issues of what in this tangible world do we need to keep, and is it safe to have everything in the ethers as opposed to in physical form? Are we going to lose our past and not keeping things? So my idea for this post actually came a few months ago. There was a Washington Post article about the new millennials and how the article, the title was something like basically your kids don't want your stuff. And I love the title because this is what I tell clients all the time: your kids don't want your stuff. And it's often used as an excuse of holding on to things, and really just instead of dealing with the guilt or whatever emotions come up around getting rid of stuff, we just pawn it off on other people in our family. And so I really encourage you not to do that, and instead address, doing the letting go process as it needs to be, and not trying to use your kids or other family members for that unless they really, really, really want it. But when I posted that article on my page a few months ago, someone wrote in of, as we're doing on this purging, are we losing our past? And I thought that was a really interesting question, and something I had not thought of. I'm a Cancer sign. Me looking in the past is never a good thing. So I'm always trying to look forward, but that doesn't mean that's true for everyone. There's some people that are more what I would call the archetype of the historian, and they really do serve that function in our life of keeping our history. And so for them, it really is a fine line of when too much is too much for even the historian, when you start getting weighted down and bogged down. Hi Robin, yeah, your kids don't want your stuff. I know, right? It's because we're becoming, well, first of all, a dining room set you can get at IKEA for $300-400, whereas the generations before us, it was a big deal to have a nice dining room table, and a lot of times it was even handmade in the family, like an heirloom piece, and there was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that went into that furniture, and that's just not the case anymore, for better, for worse, and so because of products manufactured so easily and so more abundantly than they were in the past, we've used our interiors almost like fashion. There's a much more fluidity with it, and it really, using our home and furnishings and decor as a expression of us, just like we would with fashion. And in some ways, it's actually, used to be, fashion really, well, it still is the case. Fashion obviously turns a lot quicker than home styles, but it's kind of catching up. I mean, the home trends and the fashion trends are kind of are almost in the same price category now, and so there's a lot more trending with home interiors. Whether it's your toaster. I just bought this can opener that's bright yellow, KitchenAid, and it's I love this can opener. It's bright yellow, and every time I see it, it makes me happy. And maybe next year I might want a red one. Whereas other generations they have the same can opener our entire life. So our interiors is just much more of a expression or a venue for expression for us, and so I think that's a big reason why your kids don't want your stuff. They want to pick out their own stuff. It's why would you? It's wearing your mother's clothes. I mean, and some people might enjoy that, and that's awesome. But for most people, you want to pick out your own clothes. So Robin asked, is there any energy that goes along with items that are passed on from person to person? Absolutely. Oh my gosh, great question. There's energy that goes on with your own stuff. I'm just going to use clothing since I'm talking about that as an example. I don't know about you guys, but when you start cleaning out your closet, there'll be a whole section of clothes that I bought all at the same time, and suddenly I don't want them. And it's because they have the energy of where I was in my life at the time I bought those. So there's an energy, strong energy within our items. And so if you think about this on a broader scale of energy from other people that you're wearing, oh my goodness gracious, it's there's something in psychic medium called psychometry, where you can a psychic can take a piece of jewelry or something that you own and just read your mail from it. And so this is so true with clothing. So I've never really actually thought about this in this depth, but vintage clothing or second-hand clothing, I mean, obviously you'd wash it, but you might want to do some smudging as well. But then when you add if it's family pieces and items, then there's obviously a lot more personal association with that's stronger. I have one of my mom's shirts, and it's still, even though I've washed it, it's been washed, it still smells like her. It still has her energy, and that's really sweet. And so, but I'm conscious of that, and when I wear it, I make sure I'm not becoming her or something, or take her best qualities and leave the rest. So definitely, you want to be conscious of what you're. I don't know, I'm on a clothing trend right now for some reason. But as far as furniture, definitely big time. Every item holds an energy, has an energy field. So if you have an antique armoire, from the Civil War era, well, it has its stories to tell, and you might not want to. It might not be stories you want to have in your house. So. Definitely, not that we're going to well, I can talk about space clearing, but you definitely want to space clear those items if they have a history, and then make sure it has a history that you want to have in your home, because, these walls can talk, and so can your furniture and your clothing, and everything has a story. So great question, Robin. Yeah, so going back to our digital world, and it's interesting. We're really moving from the 3D, the tangible world, into what I call the fourth dimension, which is much more a mental space. And you can see this in how we're storing things. And so what used to be out in the open, I know for me, I'm virtually almost paperless in my work. All my files are on my computer, and so it makes a really nice streamlined space or environment. But and so there is less visual, what I call visual clutter, and there is lots of scientific studies about having clutter in your space, kind of clutters up your mind. And so having less things, particularly in a work environment, is going to help you have a little bit more mental clarity. But as far as the energy of what you're storing, it's still in those files and on your computer, and so it's still in your psyche, and therefore your mental, emotional body. So, pictures that are stored on your hard drive, your phone, Snapfish, where there's all kinds of places we can hide things, just like we can hide them in our house. And it's so we're just kind of moving a little bit more from the physical realm to the mental plane. But it kind of all the same in a way. I mean, it still takes up space somewhere in your mind, body, and cloud. Maybe that'd be my next book, Mind, Body, Cloud. So I want to just kind of throw some questions out and just to think about, or if anyone has any insight onto them. And so, do we need, how much of our past do we really need? I think this is probably a person-by-person answer. I mean, I know for me, my path is all about releasing the past, and so, but for someone else, tradition and more tradition and preserving tradition may be more in line with them. But like I said, the woman who commented on my the article, I thought that was a really unique question. And, how much of our past do we really need? And I think there's a fine line, even for the collective, of living in the moment versus living in the past and planning for the future. And our things are such a representation of that for us. And finding that fine line of the things that, whether they're from ancestors or heirloom pieces, and not getting too stuck in that, and yet being able to move forward in your own life path and your own identity. So one of the questions I wanted to put out there is there anything you regret having gotten rid of? And so that would be an interesting thing, so that for people to learn from other people's experiences of anything you regret getting rid of. I know for me, I tend to I either get rid of too much or not enough. I have a hard time finding that middle ground, and so I've gotten rid of some things that I kind of wish I hadn't, honestly. But I think I've been okay about it. I think the regret hasn't been that bad. Let's just say. I mean, when I'm talking about like a pair of jeans, I'm like, oh, I wish I had that pair of jeans. Can't believe I got rid of that. But I'm sure it outweighed the energy of whatever I would have been holding on to otherwise. So, but I'm talking, if there's been, photos or pictures or things that are really more near and dear to one's heart. Not that my genes should be underestimated. Or jewelry. I think I got rid of a lot of jewelry that my parents had given me, and it was pieces that wouldn't have worn. But I don't know. I think there's something about that I kind of wish I would have not gotten rid of, or sold, or whatever I did with it. However, I hawked it and got money or pawned it. I'm just kidding. So anyway, if anyone wants to, and I know people will be watching this later, and so there's still time later on to comment. But if anyone has any thing that they remember that they've regretted getting rid of, and I think photos is a big part of this conversation. And scrapbooking. Remember, there was like scrapbooking stores. I don't know if there's still any around. I'm sure there still are somewhere. That was such a big deal, a big trend. And how quick! Oh my gosh! Now it's Instagram, and we're going to be like scrolling through our Instagram account with our grandkids. Is that going to be the new scrapbooking? And so, maybe we need to print some more pictures. I'm not sure. So if you have some thoughts on that, I would love to hear. What else came up for me? Here's a good one. What item are you completely unwilling to give up? And you may not want to answer that publicly, but what item are you completely unwilling to give up? There's a lot of information in that, whatever that is. And it might be good information, or it might be a little bit of startling information for you, because in that completely unwillingness, there's inherently resistance, and so there might be something interesting for you to look at there. But it may be something practical. I mean, let's go beyond like your phone and your computer, okay? Because I'm unwilling, I'm completely unwilling to give up my phone or my computer. But on a less technical, practical level, what am I completely unwilling to get rid of? I don't really know that I've gotten rid of, a couple of years ago sold everything I had except for what fit in my car. So that was a real test of like what I'm still holding on to, or even when I was in Nashville the last 4 months and pretty much just had a suitcase, actually 2 suitcases. And there were, so that was really telling of like what you would need. So that's interesting to think about for yourself. It's like if I, went away for 6 months, what do I definitely want to have with me? And so some things to think about. I had a friend client who, and now I'm changing some topics of our digital world again, who had all of our stuff in storage, and the storage unit burnt down. I mean, like one of those stories, it's like this, how could this happen to me kind of thing. And she lost everything. And so, as we go into this digital world, there are some benefits. I mean, I guess the whole cloud could collapse for all we know, and everything could be lost in the digital world. But also think about all the history that's been lost on the physical level through wars and floods and fires. And so I do believe there is value in preserving our history in our digital age. I think ideally it's good to have practical backups. Would be maybe having both, but I think there actually is there will be actually more history preserved by us going into the digital world. And I just think of all the art and the history that's been lost throughout all the years through wars and such. But then on a personal level, of fires and floods and things, natural disasters that people have lost everything, regarding memorabilia and things that are really near and dear to one's heart. So I think there is some value here to be said for the cloud. What else? Any questions from you guys? There's only just a few of you, but and I'm happy to keep later on. If people have comments in the feed, I'll address them later when this feed gets replayed. Okay, Robin has a question. Any advice parents that are ready to let go of items from their children's early childhood, but their children are not? Oh, wow, yes. That's a great question, and I get that a lot, actually. So it's obviously a big deal. So I think there is, I have a lot of appreciation for my parents saving things from my childhood that I wasn't quite at a place to appreciate them saving it until I've gotten older. And so I do appreciate having them hold that. You know, they had a house that was a lot bigger than the spaces that I've lived in, so there was a practicality of, yay, this is here. And then just, you know, I think until we get older, we don't fully have an appreciation for things and for the past, and having that more hindsight of the sweetness that we had from our past or growing up or our family or whatever the case is. But I think parents are in a better position to see that and know that one day you're going to want this kind of thing. But so the flip side of that is, you know, when, you know, there's a kind of a statute of limitations on how long you can you want to wait around for them to make up their minds. So, you know, obviously age plays into that big time. Whether, you know, 14 versus 40, they should have a little bit more autonomy over their items by then. And so, you know, if you're at a place, you know, space-wise and just the emotional, you know, mental or emotional weight around having those items, if you're kind of at the point where, you know, they need to make a decision or do something about this, I would give them, like, you know, like I said, a statute of limitations of, like, okay, you have a year, whatever the time feels right for you, 6 months, a year, 2 years. You have, you know, a year to come get this stuff, and if you don't, then I'm going to get rid of it. And of course, take what you want from it, or keep what you want that's meaningful to you. But giving them a little bit of boundaries to work through or work in, and that will help you as well have peace around it, I think. But usually the question's more of the parents are more wanting to hang on to it. It's usually the children not as much, even though that does happen. So you know, especially when it comes to bigger items like furniture, if you're storing a bunch of furniture for your kids in your garage and things like that, that's really taking up space. Then, you know, and you really want to give them a time frame to take care of it. You know, when we store things for other people, now when it's family, you know, the lines are very blurred because it's family and the lines are already blurred. But anytime you're storing things for anyone, there's a boundary there. Our space is our personal space, and when we store things for other people, there's a boundary crossing. So you either need to be consciously okay with and knowing that that's going on, or you don't. So again, the blinds are a little wonky when it comes to family, but know that there is a more energetic intertwinement going on when you're storing things for other people. This came up for me years ago, and storing things for a friend, and it was really indicative of our relationship, our friendship. There was a boundary crossing that I was allowing for her stuff to be in my space, and it was very mirrored the relationship. Okay, so what is the best way to go about approaching someone who is close to you that holds on to many things? Oh, interesting. So you know someone who's holding on to a lot, and you want to kind of help them or bring light to them, right? Refer them to one of my books. Just kidding. You know, I have to. Well, my first inclination is, why do you care about their state of holding on to things? So I'm guessing there's a mirror for you in that in some way, of why that is coming up for you. But if you really want to help them from a good place, then, you know, I think, you know, not to be all Gandhi and cheesy, but, you know, be the change you want to see in the world. You know, be the change you want to see with your friends. This is actually what I see with spouses when I get all the time of, like, how do I get my, you know, husband to clear clutter or whatever, and really the best way is for you to do it yourself, and that will, being the example, will carry over. That is your best chance. That is one's best chance. And you might, kind of say, man, I just feel so much better after blah, 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 blah. Or when you did this big purge and you got this new job and you're like, oh my gosh, as soon as I clean out my closet, I got a new job. So these kind of, personal testimonials, I think, is a really good way to get people on board. But, anytime you're trying to push anything on anyone, it never works. And so just being the best example of it that you can. And you might just oh yeah, there's a great new book that's, the life-changing magic of whatever. So let's see what I missed here. Okay. What's the first step in knowing what stays, what to get rid of? Good. So the first step of knowing what stays and what to get rid of, I think the first step is just having an awareness of, wow, I've got too much stuff. And you know that when you feel like the walls are coming in on you, or you can feel it in your home or in your life. So if life is getting stagnant, don't have a lot of clarity, then our home is just a mirror for our life. And so if you're feeling stuck, if your life is feeling cluttered, then your house is probably cluttered, and vice versa. Okay. And so what are the steps to go? Okay. So once you've kind of have a realization that, oh my gosh, I've got too much stuff, I need to get rid of things, then it's just a matter of, okay, what area of the house do I want to work in? And there's a lot of psychology around which different areas represent different parts of yourself, and but in a more intuitive, you can just go with what feels good. Like, oh, I really have a see where your body wants to go. Oh, I want to clean out my closet, my clothing closet, or wow, this pantry is really getting on my nerves. And then from there, I always tell people, start with the easy stuff first, stuff that there's no decision making necessary. You just you just can put it in a bag. There's no emotional triggers going on, and just freeing up some space will help get the ball rolling for you energetically, and free the space. Really, it's raising a vibration in your home to where more stuff can leave. And so that's what I always tell people, the first step. Start with the easy stuff. And then there's no decision making needed. You just do it, right? And then it's when you get to the items that are more emotionally triggering, then that's a whole another topic, which will be the topic of my next book, actually. Let's see what else here. What about broken, unfixable things with sentimental value? My grandmother gave me a jewelry box that's broken. I love it, but each time I look at it, I feel frustrated about it. Oh, wow. Great question. Gosh, there's just so many, tricky things in this topic, and there's just so much emotion. There's so much, so much emotion around our things, right? And so it really is a personal by personal situation with each person and each item. So there's not any, in my opinion, not any blanket rules when it comes to this. So in this case, but there is in general, broken items are not good to have in your house. Okay, broken items are broke. I mean, there is a broke energy around the item, and everything in your house has an energy field. It has its own energy field and emits its own energy. And so the broken items are emitting broken or disrepair. I knew someone who sat at a table at a desk for a long time with a broken leg, and she ended up breaking her leg. It can be that literal. So, in general, broken things are not good to have around. In this case, it's unfixable, and it has sentimental value. Wow, that's a doozy. It really is unfixable. The unfixable. So if it really is unfixable, like beyond super glue, so it's like, sounds like it's really on that 50-50 line of you appreciate the sentimentality of it, but yet it brings up frustration. I think there's much more to the story than you're realizing, actually. There's something to that frustration. And I don't know if it relates directly to your relationship with your grandmother. Usually there is a direct, whatever there's an item at issue, and if it's another person involved, a gift or something, the energy that comes up from that item is directly related to that relationship. So I don't know what your relationship is, or I assume was, with your grandmother, but it could just be general frustration that's coming out around that. Or it could be actually a familial energy in that line to look at. There's something around frustration, and I think once you look at that, then that might shift that item. Either you won't have the frustration around it when you see it, or you'll get rid of it in the way that you need and want to. Okay. Speaking of, one of the issues I've come up, or I've approached, it's like, how do you get rid of items that do have meaning to it? So let's say you realize you do need to get rid of something that had meaning, or want to get rid of something that had meaning, but you just don't want to give it to Goodwill or throw it away in that case. And that can be tricky. So once for me, I had one of my grandmother's quilts, and it was something that I knew I wasn't going to use around the house. I mean, maybe I may have. I mean, I am a Cancer sign. It may have been like a chicken noodle soup day where I could have cuddled up into it, perhaps. But it actually wasn't that soft. So I don't even know if I would have done that. But I was pretty sure I wanted to get rid of it, and I don't have any regrets actually of getting rid of it. But there was a church was having a drive for linens for when the Haiti hurricane happened years ago, and they were collecting linens for the orphanages there. And so it was a perfect way to get rid of that quilt in a way that felt really good to me. So if there's ways of doing that, I feel like that's a really nice way to let those items go. I mean, even if it's like Goodwill, I mean, I think, items will end up to the places they need to end up, right? Kind of like crystals. They say, like, crystals, they end up where they need to. And I think that's probably true for all items. Even if it ends up in the dump, that's where it needed to end up. So with something that's completely broken and not fixable and not any use to anyone else, and let's say it is time to let it go, you feel like that it's taking up space that doesn't need to be taken up with the broken item, then the trash is maybe the only logical place for it. And I think just having a moment with it and saying thank you and goodbye, and but having peace, getting to the place of having peace around that first of all, and then thank you and goodbye. So by the way, I'm giving away a book today, and so I think what I'll do is I'll give it to the end of the day of like whoever shares this video, I'll do a drawing of from the people who shared this video. I'll do a drawing, and let's see who wins a copy of Decorating with the 5 Elements. So share today's feed, and I'll give it to midnight tonight, so I'll pick it tomorrow. All right, great questions. And I hope some people comment later on what item are you completely unwilling to give up. I'm really curious about that. And also anything that you regret having gotten rid of. Oh, thanks for the link, Robin. Awesome. You're like very resourceful. All right. Any other questions, thoughts, comments? Thank you, Livebox. For anyone watching, like I said, make sure you like the Livebox feed so you can be on, get all their amazing content. And all right. I think that's all. So everyone have a great rest of your day. I hope you've been inspired to get rid of a thing or two, perhaps, or maybe not, or maybe inspired to keep some things, right? To keep or not to keep. We'll keep talking. All right, y'all have a great day.